Hello, friends from near and far, from Canada and the US, from East Coast, West Coast. What a treat. And I know some people are keeping their photos up and not going live, but hey, it's good to see some fun faces and names that I recognize who were at the summit in Seattle. So yay, you're coming back. We're just waiting for one more person to show up who's going to be presenting. Where of course Zoom is not cooperating this morning, so we'll just maybe start out by saying good morning, happy Remembrance Day weekend for those of you in Canada, and Veterans Day weekend for those of you in the US. I am delighted today that our conversation will be about our Slow Flowers Summit at Calgary Center for Art and Creativity. And I'm Deborah Prinzing, founder of the Slow Flower Society, and I welcome all of you. And we'll have a few more people joining in the Zoom room. But right now, I just want to introduce the Slow Flowers team. We've got Karen Thornton is behind a photo of me. But hi, Karen. You can direct message her if you have any questions. Nisha Blancas, our social media manager. Hi, Nisha.
Hello.
I hear you've got your Christmas decorations up.
I do.
All right.
I did see a meme that said that people that put up their Christmas stuff early makes them more happier. So
Okay, well, you got through. You made October an entire month-long celebration of Halloween. So
2 months. So
who cares about Thanksgiving? And the Canadians already had theirs. So we're focusing right on your green and red. And I want to. We don't have a giveaway today, but I think if you have any questions about connecting with Slow Flowers, please message Nisha directly, and then Tonally, our membership manager. Hi, Tonally.
Good morning, everybody.
How are you doing, Tonally?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day. Cheers to another meetup.
I saw you planted all your tulips yesterday.
I did. Yes. And I harvested potatoes at the same time. I rotated my bed. So it was, gratifying to turn the soil.
Plus, you kind of killed two birds with one stone. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, we have two guests today. We have Becky Feasby of Prairie Flowers, and we have Latifa Pelletier-Ahmed of ALCLA Nursery. And Latifa's having some kind of trouble because literally she's registered for this login 4 times. So we're going to just hopefully pray to the Zoom gods that she'll get in very shortly. And she says that there's a bit of a delay with that email address, Karen. So that info ad. So I don't know what to say. Maybe you can text her. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in and say we are so thrilled to be bringing the Slow Flowers Summit for 2024, our first international destination, to Banff, which is in Alberta, about an hour outside of Calgary. And so we thought we just opened early bird ticket sales on November 1st. Several people have already registered, so it's good to see that pace coming along and knowing that people are excited. Karen's already heard from the Banff Center that people are grabbing hotel rooms, and she'll talk a little bit about that in the second half of the meetup. But first of all, I want to invite our first guest, Becky Feasby, to join me on the screen. And please type any questions you have for Becky into the chat, and Tonally will manage those. Where are you, Becky?
I'm up top for me.
Oh, we need to, there we go.
There.
Yeah. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Yeah. Hello, Becky.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. Yeah, really good. Excited.
Becky, you are responsible for this, planting the seed of the idea. I want to say like 3 years ago, we started talking about this.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Because it was 2 years ago that you came out not quite 2 years ago, to look at it.
Yes. Well, that was crazy. So we'll tell everyone the story. Becky, first of all, we had wanted to have come to Canada for sure to really recognize the vibrant community of Slow Flowers members in Canada. And I think we have members in about maybe 8 or 9 provinces. So pretty good representation, and mainly in the metro areas. But one of the biggest contingents is in the province of Alberta. And Becky is our ambassador in Canada. And she and I had been talking, and I kept saying, well, let's have the summit in Calgary, because you've had 2 successful sustainable flowers. workshops?
Yeah, I had three there. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great. So you know how to run an event in Calgary.
Yep.
But then I don't know why it came up, but you said we should look at Banff, and it's a pretty spectacular place. And so can you just talk a little bit about how that got on your radar, and like how many years have you been going to Banff, and what is Banff as a destination for people in Calgary and beyond?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I started just thinking, Deborah, like, Calgary's great and I love living here and it makes me happy and all the things. But in terms of bringing people in from all over, Banff is sort of one of those world-class destinations that's sort of on a lot of people's bucket lists from all over the world to come and visit. It is spectacular, set right in the Rocky Mountains. It has every amenity that you could ever want there. Some might say too many amenities.
For a tourist, you mean? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful hiking opportunities. We're a big hiking family. So we rarely actually go to Banff to hike simply because it's often a bit busy. So we go sort of around to other places, but it's just a spectacular setting, has rich history, a celebrated sort of Indigenous cultural history as well. And it's just spectacular. I mean, it's sort of world-class destination. So I just said, I thought, I mean, people would love to come to Calgary, and I'm happy to show them around here too.
And they have to kind of fly through Calgary to get to Banff, right?
You do have to fly to Calgary to get to Banff, right? And then, but it is an unbelievable destination.
Here, Karen's putting up every photo that Google has.
Well, look, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
And the Banff Center for the Arts is, an incredible venue to host something like this because they celebrate all of the creative arts. So there will likely be ceramicists in residence. There could be writers in residence, painters, Indigenous historians, you name it, all sort of in residence there at the same time that the summit's going on. So you feel like you're in this beautiful community of creatives, of which I think all of us would consider, whether we're a flower farmer, a farmer-florist, a florist, whatever it is, it's all that sort of earthwork which really sort of fits in with the way the Banff Center operates.
Yeah. When we went to visit it in May of 2022, I was really struck by the fact that it's also kind of it's sort of self-contained. So you're not having to have a lot of logistics. Once you get there, you're just there.
Yes.
And it's very special in that you walk out of your hotel room, or they're kind of like almost like conference center hotel rooms. You just walk out and you're on a trail, and there's some beautiful gathering happening of conference goers who decided they don't want to be indoors, and they went out and sat right by the mountains. It's really wonderful.
Oh yeah, floor to ceiling windows in every conference room where you turn around and you just have this gorgeous vista of mountains. I think the accommodations are fabulous. The food is really good. There's little wine bars that you can visit. I mean, not that I would do that, Kelly. Kelly and I might.
I see Kelly Morrison on here. As you said, your wine buddy. But I also want to say, Karen Thornton is very conscious about the menu at every single summit. And it's a lot of logistics to make sure you have dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian. But at the catering operation in Banff, it's like, well, of course, like that's just their MO. And so I felt we were really happy about that too, because it's sort of dialed in for various dietary requirements, and the food is super organic and delicious. So excited about that. I just want to talk a little bit about the floral scene. And I know, of course, it's very diverse. There's every growing zone imaginable across the country. But in terms of what you're seeing in Alberta, I mean, I know we've got members who are very far north and others that are very urban. Can you just talk a little bit about what's the season and what you're seeing happen in the province?
Yeah, I would say that I've seen flower farmers and really, really good flower farmers sort of blow up in Alberta over the last 5 or 6 years. And so we have people growing, incredible flowers, south near Waterton National Park, where it's windy, right? And so Kristen Primrose, who's a Slow Flowers member, and I know coming to the summit, she manages crazy winds.
Mm.
Heather Henson, my good friend of Boreal Blooms, is up in Cold Lake. It's called Cold Lake for a reason, right? I mean, it's cold.
And she's going to be one of our speakers too.
She is. And so we have people growing in a bunch of different sort of climates. I mean, you can count on Alberta sort of being anywhere from sort of zone 2 to like maybe zone 4 or 5 in a more protected urban area. So it's definitely, a shorter growing season, because our first frost and our last frost, there's not a ton of time, but we have these beautiful long days when people that come to the summit will be enjoying the sun being out until close to 10:30 at night. And so there is this sort of really summer beauty that goes along with these gorgeous long days.
So you just plan on not sleeping a lot in the summer.
Yeah, you sleep less in the summer for sure. Like, because if you're tired, you go to bed and you're like, it's not dark.
And if you're a flower farmer, you've got work to do until you can harvest.
You can get a lot done during that long daylight period.
I'm interested about the zones. You're in Calgary and you grow a lot in your urban residential garden for your clients. When are you able to start harvesting? I think when I came and saw you in May, you had spring bulbs that you were able to harvest.
Tulips, and the alliums might have been just starting. So it would be just bulbs and maybe some, greenery from spirea or whatever, but no other real flowers. And then it sort of progresses. We grow great peonies in these northern climates. So peonies are a really great perennial crop. I do grow a lot of perennials. Perennials do well here.
Kind of handy, right?
Yeah. I'm starting to grow a lot of native things thanks to Latifa. So I do incorporate a lot of native flowers and foliage in my work now. And then, the fall, it varies. Like this year, our fall, it was a long time until we had a hard frost, a killing frost. So people were able to harvest well through Canadian Thanksgiving, which is sort of the middle of October, which, is often not the case. So
but how nice for local flowers, if you can
really nice for local
flowers for the holiday.
Absolutely.
When I remember we were trying to figure out the date for going to Banff, and there were some challenges because we've got there's this big thing that happens called the Calgary Stampede, and we didn't want to butt up against that. When is that, Becky?
It's like July. I don't know when it starts in 2024.
But generally early July.
Like 10 days in early July. Yes.
And we're at the end of June.
Yes.
So we were looking a little earlier. And at some point you said, but if you go too early, there will be snow on the ground in Banff, because Banff is high elevation, right?
Yes, very high. Yeah. Yes. So I was like, if you push it too far forward, I mean, people won't need snowshoes, but
Yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah.
You'll need your puffy coat.
Yes.
Well, that's one of the things I'm excited about with the programming is that we have gotten really creative about our floral engagement, because there isn't, let's be honest, it's in the mountains. There are no flower farms in Banff. There are flower farms, as you said, Cold Lake, closer to Calgary. Where is Primrose? Farther
She's
south?
way down south. Yeah.
Okay. So within the province, we'll be able to bring in locally grown flowers. We'll probably bring in flowers from British Columbia as well. And some of our speakers who are coming from Ontario, who are going to be, they're either farmer-florists or floral designers. I've asked them if they just bring some of their local product with them, because, it's easy enough to put a box, check it in luggage for, a 1 hour flight or 2 hour flight.
Yeah.
But we're getting really creative with botanical engagement that will include both dried flowers, and then Lourdes Sill is here. I see her, Lourdes Still from Masagana farm. We might put her on the screen in a little bit. Sorry, Lourdes, I'm giving you a little warning, to talk about dye plants. And so there'll be a lot of ways to showcase botanical growing and design with a local emphasis, but maybe not just, crops of sunflowers or something like that you'll see in a field.
We don't have sunflowers in end of June.
Do you get them in like September?
Well, like more in August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, Becky, one of the things I ask you to do is to give at the summit. You're going to be our local host, and you're going to give kind of the welcome. But many people know you for your work in sustainability. So, do you want to just talk a little bit about what's happening with Becky Feasby and Prairie Girl Flowers, and then we'll bring Latifa onto the screen because yay, she got into Zoom. Thank you, Zoom.
Sure. I've been kind of absent on social media lately, which doesn't mean I'm abandoning it, but I've found it oppressive and not giving me that much joy. So, but I have run a sustainability Sunday so I still advocate for sustainable practices and try to help educate people about different aspects of sustainability. Right now I'm busy gathering data and research for my master's thesis. So I am working on completing my master's at Harvard, hopefully graduating in May. Yeah, so I'm working on completing an environmental and social life cycle assessment for roses grown in North and South America. So that's one area that we have very little data on. And people love to talk about the carbon footprint of their flowers, but in the Americas, sadly, there's very little data to sort of back up assumptions we might have or whatever. So, but the data gathering for life cycle assessment is a lot of work, and it's a lot of work to get flower farms to agree to sort of spend 1 or 2 hours with me, giving me some information. I think people get scared about participating in something that may reveal something that they're uncomfortable with, or sort of the unknown. So that's the biggest thing I'm working on every day now.
Just trying to get people to feel like this is going to be a positive
yes,
resource for the floral industry.
Because it's going to be a positive resource. I mean, even if a farm is shown to, not be that environmentally sustainable, it's not about throwing them under the bus for that, but sort of pointing out, hey, if you did this one thing, that could change your greenhouse gas contributions down, you know what I mean, in a huge way, and probably save you money. So that's sort of where I'm at. So I'm doing a lot of that, and then looking at planning another sustainable flowers workshop next year, probably back in Canada. I'll be moving it out of the US. So back for now, moving back to Canada or possibly the UK. So, and that's where I really try to focus on the 3 pillars of sustainability. That's always been my objective. So we talk about environmental, social, and economic sustainability, and how we have to consider all 3 of those. Well,
you're just coming off of a very successful second sustainable floral workshop in New Jersey. And I was, of course, a little bit more aware of it this year because we both shared a keynote speaker, Shane Connolly.
Yes.
But you had, by all appearances on social media, you had an incredible turnout and a lot of floral goodness, as I like to say. So congratulations.
It was a lot of floral goodness. Thanks. Yeah, it was fabulous. And I very fond of Shane.
It was quite special to spend time with him in the Seattle area, and we're going to post a story about it in the upcoming Still Flowers Journal, so people can see that. Listen, I'm so excited that you agreed to stay on, and I wanted to ask Karen to put Latifa Pelletier-Ahmed on with us. Hello, Latifa.
Hi. It's nice to see you.
It's so good to see you. Welcome. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties, but oh well, you're here now.
Yeah, I think things got a bit mixed up on my links and stuff and how I was trying to open them, but I figured it out eventually.
Oh, geez. I mean, every time I try to think I have it figured out, they change the rules. Well, Latifa, I met you through Becky, and I can't remember. Did you speak at one of the Sustainable Flowers workshops?
Yeah, the one in Calgary. I think that's when Becky first got in touch with me, and then we've been connecting ever since. So yeah.
But Becky, you're also a customer of Latifa's Nursery, right?
Yes, I am.
So tell us about ALCLA Nursery, Latifa. It's in Calgary, and you just moved, right?
Yeah, so the nursery, ALCLA, we also say ALCLA, Native Plants. It's named after the original owners. So we actually took over the company in 2019, myself and my partner, Ben Hartney. And we've just moved to Carstairs. It hasn't been officially announced yet because we're still settling in and there's still some paperwork and things that need to be sorted out. But we're about 45 minutes from the Calgary center, and then a little bit further north. But yeah, you might see, I don't know if you can see boxes around me. We're still unpacking, we're still settling, and it's been a huge adjustment. But yeah, we grow over 150 species of wildflowers, grasses, and shrubs native to mainly central and southern Alberta. And we wild collect, I would say like 95% of the seeds ourselves.
Wow.
And, so which is a huge
You look so calm,
undertaking.
but underneath you're probably going through the mental checklist of everything else you have to do this week.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of it's just like the washing machine broke. Now I have to get a new one. This is where I'm at right now.
Oh, life. Well, Latifa, that is really unusual to be wild collecting and then using those seeds for cultivation. But I mean, that's really the only way you can do it with native plants, right? There's not a commercial seed source for nurseries, is there?
No, not really. I mean, there are some plants that are domesticated and that are available for sale and can be propagated either by seed or cuttings or whatever types of materials. So there are native plants, like Oregon grape comes to mind as an ornamental, which is also a native species, which has also been bred. There's hybrids, et cetera, of that type of species. But for wild collected plants, I was thinking about this, like, one of the most beautiful and wonderful things about being part of the Americas, being part of North America, is our biodiversity. And I think it's the land that shapes us as a people, all of us who occupy space on this land. And unfortunately, though, a lot of the vegetation that was here for thousands of years has become very, very small and is competing with all the different human activity that's happening on the landscape, particularly in the prairies. And so we have very few places where we can even see rich biodiversity of certain native plants and so forth. So I suppose what I want to say is, like, we have an opportunity now to really start to pay attention to the true history and landscape of North America, and to actually invest in those species. Because if we as human beings, as the most dominant species on the landscape, cannot invest and take time to appreciate the species that are there, I think there's a risk of losing that heritage. And that's sort of the situation where we are in now. So yeah, we have no choice but to actually physically go out collect seeds. And that actually is what keeps our seeds and our plants wild and genetically diverse. Because on the flip side of it, if you genetically domesticate a plant and you select for example, rapid germination that happens uniformly, which we often see in cultivated plants, someone who's never grown the wild version of that plant may think that they just germinate that way. But wild plants are actually a lot more complex and clever and have to survive incredible odds. And so to do that, sometimes it can take extra years before a seed will germinate. They'll just stay in the soil. They might need periods of cold or being exposed to perhaps an animal's digestive tract or wind or different environmental conditions. There's all different kinds of factors, light and temperature factors that influence these seeds, and it's all different. And so the cool thing about what we do is it's really dynamic and always changing. Yeah, and so it's a very different thing. And so, we can't predict that when we grow our seeds that we're going to get exactly this amount of plants germinate, or that they'll perform exactly the same way, because there's so much that happens in the variation. So it's a bit of a risk in some ways, but that's kind of the fun of it and the joy of it. And I love to challenge people and to celebrate diversities, because it is actually an incredibly precious resource and incredibly valuable.
That's just so poetic to hear you just describe it, because it's the opposite of the mindset of the nursery trade, right? Where it's like, find the bestseller and then patent it and make sure everyone has to pay for its use. And you're working with how nature performs. And it sounds like when you're collecting seed, that must also be a little bit sensitive. Like, do you have to get permits, or like, where are you collecting all this seed? is it kind of a tricky way to navigate the, you
Yeah.
know, public lands?
For sure, when we collect in public lands or private lands with permission, or often the roadside, like a lot of there's a lot of public right of ways between properties, especially in the prairies, which a lot of times can be in good condition in terms of being wild habitat. So those can be great, you know, just driving along in the country can be a great way to find a native seed. So yeah, I mean, because we're not collecting large volumes of seed, we haven't had too many issues with permits. But for sure, if you were going to go out with some seed collecting machines or several individuals and collect bags and bags of seed, then you would have to apply for permits, like what they do in forestry when they collect, you know, pounds and pounds of spruce seed, for example. Yeah, they have to get a permit. But for us, we're collecting a few grams at most in most cases. So it's not a lot. I mean, we are a small business, and so we're not collecting. We try to be really mindful about how we're collecting and that it's sustainable, and we're not collecting large amounts of seed. If it's a more rare species, we're not necessarily going to be collecting a lot to sell. We're just collecting a small amount to grow our own plants. And we try to also, now that we've moved, we're going to do more of that, growing out plants, but trying to keep them genetically diverse. But that will allow us to have more availability and ease of harvesting, because often I have to travel. It could be up to 3 hours away, not all the time, but to collect certain species because that's where they grow. So, and then I have to time that. And every year it's slightly different. I mean, this year, I know Becky knows, we had an early hot spring and there were a lot of wildfires as a result. But another result of that is that it changed the flowering times of a lot of species. So that means if you, in your mind, you always collect milkweed in September, this year, actually in August you could collect milkweed, for example. And there's a lot of different things, so you have to be really in tune with each year because it's always changing. And and then drought and stuff like that, we've had a lot of drought. So drought can actually reduce the viability of seeds, and so that obviously really impacts us if the seed we're collecting from one year, because of the environmental conditions, are not as good as from another. So it's a, you know, I think what makes our project sustainable is that it is biodiverse. So when some plants fail, we have lots of another that can be a substitute. And that's how we thrive, is by actually embracing the diversity of it rather than trying to fight and control everything.
And I keep thinking to myself, you're like a small batch artisan nursery, because you're intimate with the place where you're collecting the seeds. You're doing it in person. But when you talk about biodiversity, are you saying, like, say for specific wildflower, you're collecting seed from multiple habitats so that there's not this I don't know, risk for, you know, a variety of, maybe to say you had a failure, you've got sources from other parts of the province so that you keep that plant going. I'm not putting it very well, but
that's kind of the idea. Yeah, like we try. The parent generation, that's the first generation of wild stock. So the seed, ideally, in my ideal situation, we would grow out from the first parent. So the next generation is what we'd be growing. And we would know, we have a few individuals from that population. Like, everything comes down to, even the parent generation, you're not collecting from one plant, you're collecting from as many different individuals as you can in a population.
And that keeps the diversity going.
Subset of those seeds, you grow those seeds, you grow out a subset of those individuals. Hopefully, if you've done a good job, those are diverse within that population. And then you can say, okay, this is from Calgary area. And then, this other same species I collected maybe from the Edmonton area. But you can't, the generation after that, those two populations are going to start mixing. You know, the reality is it's incredibly complex to say you can try and preserve the diversity once you start to domesticate. You inevitably domesticate to some extent. So that's why we have to conserve those remaining wild spaces, because they're irreplaceable.
Right. Oh, that's a really good point. It's like you're really mindful of not disrupting the native places. The wild do you call them wild places? Is that better than saying the native origins of the location? Or
I think, both would be fine. You know, I think there's different ways of framing it, but I think often you'll use in ecology, or you'll use the word native habitat to refer to an area that's predominantly native species, and how we count that is really variable. You know, like I have friends in conservation who say as little as 30% of native species on our grassland is enough to call it a native grassland. So something, some food for thought.
So when people come to Banff and get to spend time with you, you have plans to take our attendees. It's optional, but an early morning wildflower walk. I think I'm going to use the word walk, Becky, instead of hike. I think hike will freak people out. But when you've been giving these walks all over, the Calgary area, and so what do you try to, how do you try to lead people through these walks, and how should they prepare for that? Bring their notebooks and cameras and that sort of thing.
Yes, definitely. Bring a notebook and a camera. That's a great idea, and I think people will love it. I absolutely think you'll love it. I haven't done them last year, and I get a lot of people messaging me, when are you going to do your walks again? But
you've been a little busy.
And I like the word walk. It really is more accurate in describing. It's not a hike. In fact, we could easily go like no more than 100 meters, and there's so much biodiversity in Banff because it is an intact wild area. You could literally just throw a stone in every direction, you'll find a new species. So we really don't have to go far. And I have extensive background in both the herbal uses, the medicinal uses, because I'm actually trained. I studied in England, in London, in herbal medicine. So I have an evidence-based approach and background with medicine, and I have lots of practical experience of actually using these plants as food, because that's just a hobby of mine. Foraging and that kind of thing. I've been, for well over a decade, I've been into that kind of stuff. So I have so much information to share with you, and not only how to use the plants as food, we can even, we're not supposed to. Weeds we can nibble. We're not allowed to take anything.
Okay, we'll nibble on weeds, but you'll have to tell us which ones are weeds. Oh, that's so exciting, Latifa. And I guess the one thing I'm also very excited about, and this is sort of goes hand in glove with Becky's work on raising awareness about the problem with invasive species. Like, it's almost like native plants are the antidote to invasive species. And I'm excited to have you kind of plant a seed of an idea among flower farmers and floral designers to see native plants. And of course, it's so hyper regional for wherever people are from, but to see the native plants available to them as possibly, something that can be used in the floral industry. And I'm just eager to hear do you have flower growers who buy from you as well for their cut flower crops, or is that just beginning to get it, take off?
I think it's, from my understanding, just beginning. I mean, Becky definitely supports us. And from my recollection, we've had other folks like following up from the Sustainable Flowers Summit, and that followed up with me. So I think there is an interest, but it is something new, and you have to be innovative, because some of these species, again, they might be difficult to cultivate. Some of them aren't, but maybe they've never been used before. And I know I'm not a florist, so I don't know all the background behind it, but I know there has to be a longevity, and they have to be able to be preserved to a certain level, et cetera, et cetera. And so, there's so much, I think, room for innovation, for learning, for trying new things. There definitely are annual native species that can flower in the first year, but sometimes it can take several years for a species to flower, right? Minimum 2 for most perennials, but some larger, long-lived perennials, like bear grass, which I know is used in the floral industry, but actually is not less common in the wild now. It can take 7 years to flower, but the bloom is, I haven't never actually seen it in real life, to be honest, but it's the pictures are just breathtaking. And we actually have some plants growing from seed, but in 5 to 7 years, I'm looking forward to seeing them.
You're a patient woman. But I think we're kind of at the tip of the iceberg on this. Becky, you might want to jump in a little bit, and then I think we'll open it up to questions. But just this idea of, the over hybridizing and the overbreeding, we know it happens. We see it in so many categories. And of course, we're excited with the new, but some of these sustainable practices of growing native plants in our gardens and on our farms are regenerative, and we should be encouraging that too. And, I think you're both sort of pioneers in that, just educating people. But What are you seeing about in the floral trade, Becky, of people wanting to grow native plants?
I mean, I think more there's even a couple places in the US that are sort of focusing on that now. So I think you see it, we're starting to see it more and more. I mean, certainly Latifa and I have all kinds of great conversations about invasives. I remember when I first brought up some of the concerns with invasive species being used in floristry and stuff, she was like horrified. And any sort of person I talk to with a sort of an ecological or botanical background will be like, what, really? And certainly, you know, one of the issues with invasive species is that they displace these native species, right? And so it's a two-pronged problem, right? Or multiple. Is more
you have to kind of attack it from both sides, like eradicate invasives and encourage natives. That's what you mean, right? Yeah, exactly.
And so it's something that Latifa and I have connected over quite a bit, and you know, I'll rattle on to her.
Well, I think it's going to be great because it's really going to introduce sort of, first of all, nothing beats getting excited about wildflowers than going out and seeing them in the wild.
Absolutely.
So, Latifa, that's going to be such a special treat. And, you know, normally we do a farm tour of some kind of flower farm tour, and you're going to be our flower farm tour. Okay.
There'll be no better flower farm really than
nature,
walking around in Banff and sort of looking at the interesting plants that grow there, right, in the mountain landscape, and the history, the uses, the ecological significance of them. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And I just love the idea of rolling out of bed and just meeting Latifa 5 minutes later and heading out. And I think we're going to figure out how to feed people, maybe get bag lunches, a bag breakfast or something like that. But it's exciting. I thank you for saying yes, Latifa. I'm so excited to host you and have people just not only do that walk with you, but also then you'll be presenting about just kind of the overview of how native plants are essential in both growing and, you know, I know you're not a floral designer, but I think you're going to have a lot of people asking you questions about bloom time and stem length and, you know, all of those things. So
I'm looking forward to learning.
Yeah. Do you guys mind if we bounce to some questions? And I also am excited because one of our speakers, our other speakers is in the Zoom. I'd love to put Lourdes on the screen so she can tell us a little bit. Hello. She can say hello and join the conversation. Lourdes is coming to us from Manitoba. Is that one province over, or that's two provinces over to the east of Alberta, right?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I almost forgot to call, but I really want to hop on and just like listen and hear from the other speakers, and of course from Becky and you, Deborah. So yeah, I'm glad with the time change, I'm glad I was able to hop on this Zoom call.
Well, you put a comment in the chat, and it wasn't a question, but you said you're really looking forward to learning from Latifa because you've been diving into the plant diversity of the grasslands near you. How does that, is that on your property, or what are you doing?
Yeah, well, you know what, Deborah, as I've mentioned to you, and I've announced on my socials, I did started a new role of a remote full-time position for a nonprofit organization who is like working with young emerging regenerative farmers in Canada, and I am we're planning a mixer this coming December, and the theme is actually on this very idea on what the commonality between the farmers in the province of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and in Manitoba, and it is the grasslands. And I think it is the first ever mixer for the prairies, and I think I created a theme for the event because I really want people to see. I mean, you know, we're farming in different different provinces, but what is the common thing between farmers from these provinces, and it is like rediscovering the vastness of the grasslands and take root in that. So the theme is like rooted, grow deep, because I think it's essential. A lot of the farmers that we do serve are either born in Canada, or some of them are immigrants like me, or born from other parts of Canada. But then I think there is that importance in learning about the land that we're farming on, and my hope is that for them, when they go back, we go back to the farms that we are farming on, and we have this like new perspective on how to steward better the land and to advocate for its conservation. And the native plants is kind of like really integral part of that. And I'm learning so much about the advocacy that we need to do. Yeah, for us prairie farmers.
That's great. And and Latifa mentioned some of the grasses that, like the bear grass that is sort of commonly used maybe more in the floral trade, but then you're seeing it kind of disappear in the wild places, right, Latifa?
Yeah. And I invited a speaker. They're a father and son. So they've been in the business of like native seeds. And the son is actually part of a lot of conservation effort in Manitoba, and I think they're in the Grassland National Park too in Saskatchewan. And so there is this that people can integrate, like flower farmers and farmers can integrate those native plants into their operations because there's so much benefit in them. So I'm bringing them to talk about like, because I think just on the theme, and then learning for people to learn more about the importance of including or I don't know, like having that diversity again, however size of their farm operation is.
Latifa just asked, is it Skinner native seed?
Yeah, John and Michael. I'm really excited to learn from them too.
I think what I'm hearing you guys say is like it's possible to integrate native plants into anybody's property. It may not be a primary crop, but it's a way to build up biodiversity and maybe more regenerative practices into your land, right?
Yes, and there's a perfect example. Actually, there is like a flower farm here in Manitoba, and so they've noticed. So they are an agricultural family too, and flower farm is kind of like their second business. And so they had observed. So they have the flower farm where the U-pick operation is. It's really like secluded by the trees around the farm, and then they have another area just like outside the U-pick area, very exposed to the conventional farm operation. So and they wanted to build that side for the florist orders, wholesale orders, and they've been like really diving into how can we kind of like recreate that that ecosystem that they have on the U-pick area. And so what they're planning in their long-term plan, and they have this fall like planted some native species in there to create those I'm losing the word, but like not windbreak, but like sort of like that windbreak, so that to recreate that, because it was really just infested, and because there's no barrier or anything, but they wanted it to, they're very but they wanted it to incorporate like native plants. So I connected them with Skinner Native Seeds, and the perfect people to connect with, because that's what they do. Skinner Native Seeds work with farmers on how to include this native plants in whatever plan they have for their farm.
I just to reiterate, like I got chills. Like I'm so excited that you're saying, Lourdes, and thank you so much for sharing. Like, but native, just to emphasize how important native species are, they are the backbone for life as we know it in the places that we live, and all insect life, all bird life, all invertebrate life, and all the animals, but big and small, they depend on these native species. They depend on these plants for food, for habitat, for building their nests, for mating rituals. There's all kinds of incredible, unique, and fascinating adaptations when you start to learn about the richness of the wildlife, the flora and fauna of this land. It has been profoundly underlooked because it's amazing. The stories are rich, they're colorful, they're vibrant, and of course they form part of all the Indigenous stories and worldviews that cross Turtle Island. So it's just, you start tapping into 10,000 years plus of history of life, of dynamism in this land that's unique to this land, and it's just incredible. And the land, I think, really starts to come alive literally as soon as you start bringing back native species into the habitat. So I'll just throw that in there.
And Latifa, this is part of your personal story because of your heritage, right?
Well, my heritage, I'm half Bangladeshi, and then my grandparents, they settled in northern Alberta. They're from Quebec. They're French Canadian, and it is part of my story in different ways. In the way that where my grandparents settled at some of the most devastated landscape in the country.
Mm.
The parkland, only 5% is remaining. And so it happened in less than 100 years. It's easily one of the most ecologically disturbed places on earth. And so that's a legacy for me, for sure, because that's something within my own parents' lifetime, they witnessed that. And then also in Bangladesh, I do visit and I go home and I see the impact of the loss of biodiversity, and it's huge. And it's an even more critical issue in the tropics because you can't dry and save most tropical seeds. So if we don't preserve those remaining spaces, we're at risk of losing our biodiversity across the earth.
Wow.
So it's something every human being on earth has a stake in.
And we need to care enough to do our own research and educate ourselves about what are the native species wherever we live, which I think you're going to just open up people's eyes too. Thank you so much. I know Tonley has a couple questions. Tonley, why don't you jump on and just, I don't know if we don't maybe just turn your mic on and share your questions. And then if anyone else has questions, please add them to the chat and we'll make sure everyone gets to, we'll pose it to our panelists, including Lourdes, who didn't know she was going to be featured today.
Yeah, I feel like all three of you guys could really speak to these questions. For me, it's something I'm always thinking about, but I was wondering if you guys had tips specifically coming from a flower farmer standpoint in terms of when it comes time for us to plant cover crops in our states, provinces, wherever you might be, or when it comes time for us to let a field rest and regenerate our soil. Are there specific cover crops that you recommend us planting for things that we can till in? So not necessarily those things like the grasses that we're leaving for many, many years, but what are some things that we can do for like a quick flash in the pan? This is a year of giving back to our soil. Is there anything?
It's going to be very regional specific. And of course, the biggest challenge and barrier is access to seed. So there might be a species really suitable to your area, but no one is producing it in the quantities that would actually benefit or be feasible for you to do for a large
big
area.
broadcast sowing. Yeah.
That being said, I think legumes, like most often European clovers, are used for this type of process because they are nitrogen fixing and improve the fertility of the soil. So there definitely are native legumes that can do that. I know native plant growers in British Columbia. There's the spring-rank clover, which is one of the North American species of clover that is native. And I know they're producing it on a somewhat larger scale, but nothing like, a pound for $10 or whatever that you could get for domesticated European clovers, but things like that. So, but again, that's where we really want to be connecting with our networks and working together. Like my dream is that there are farmers producing native seed, like purple prairie clover and white prairie clover, but because these are perennials, I feel like the benefit would come from leaving them over several years rather than just one. They're slow growing, they're slow to establish. So there are barriers, perhaps. You could try certain annuals, but I don't know if that would actually bring the benefit that a legume might bring to an area. Because, it depends. There's a lot to the science of soil science instead of, beyond my knowledge. But that's just to give you some ideas of what. Yeah,
that's a great answer
for what you're doing it too.
Yeah, I mean, I use a lot of vetch and fava bean mixes, things like that, field peas, but it's just always interesting to be like, what is out there?
Some of the most, in terms of regenerating soils from big ag, people have had tons of success with planting, daikon radish plus clovers plus other legumes plus blanket flower, like, what I mean? A combination of all kinds of things that go in there to that, like a root crop can be useful too, because I can help break up some clay, right?
Mm-hmm. And Lourdes, you added, I've seen from another grower using fall, rye, and clover. Is that as a mix?
Yeah, I don't know if they're, but that's one of the market grower here. Yeah, so they've been using this cover crop, and I think that is a mix. And there is another market grower here, so they actually I learned of it like from one of their posts in the newsletter that they have experimented, like, so they're like in their rows, so that's how kind of like sort of their amendment. So they're growing cover crop and then for like the next year and then growing crop in there, and they've been like really seeing a lot of success.
Mm-hmm. I love it. This is such a great conversation. I would love to get that resource that you refer to, Latifa, for British Columbia. Is it a native seed company?
Yeah, it's Satin Flower. They're so awesome. It's a couple as well, and they are, I think it's Satin Flower Nursery.
Okay, so you're
Nursery, I
putting that in the
think.
chat.
They're both biologists, and they're brilliant, and they have a native plant nursery on the southern part of Vancouver Island, and it's gorgeous, and their plants are so amazing. Yeah.
Satin flower. Oh, thanks so much. That's great. Well, we don't have a ton of time left. I wanted to ask Karen to go over a few frequently asked question details, and then Becky and I, I'm not joking. This is something to be aware of, and that is the bear population of Banff. So can we just, Becky, chat a little bit about bear awareness?
Bear awareness and bear safety, always people like, but it's really sort of very simple. It's, we would probably discourage people from getting up early in the morning, wandering out their hotel room at the Banff Center with a muffin and a cup of coffee and just going off by themselves, quietly enjoying the wilderness. If you go off in groups of 4, we tend to hike in groups of 4 typically. That is a great way to you talk. I don't have problems with this talking and talking
Really?
loudly. No, for extended hours on end, I'm good. So just sort of basic things. I think Deborah and I have chatted about having a few cans of bear spray there so that people could sign those out. We will show you how to use them, which is an important thing too, to sort of understand what's there. But just sort of, understanding that you are in a national park that has wildlife all over the place. There's lots of mule deer, there's elk. Elk don't like to be disturbed or bothered either, right? Moose, whatever. It's nothing to sort of be worried about, but I think it's something to be aware of and not think that you're in the city and can just go.
Yeah.
You can go strolling around willy-nilly if you like, but
it's not Disneyland, right?
No, it's not Disneyland. It's probably ill-advised, right?
And I don't mean that disparagingly, Nisha, because I know you loved Disneyland.
No, and I don't mean it in sort of in any negative way either, but I think it's something that
just educate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and be respectful that this is their place, that we're visitors where all of these animals live, right?
Yeah, we want to keep our Slow Flower Summit guests happy, safe, and respectful of the place we're in. So I think that's great. Yeah. Thank you, Becky, for that. And we'll have more information about that in the future. And when she first told me this, guys, I didn't believe her. But then I saw some news reports that there were some incidents this past summer. So I just don't want to poo-poo it. So
yeah, no, but it's, again, nothing to sort of freak out about, but just, it's an awareness thing. Wouldn't you agree, Latifa? Like, it's not like, oh my God, bears, but
Yeah, there's a bear aware video. I think that could be great for people to see that.
Totally.
Because in most cases, bears are not trying to catch people. They're just minding their own business. So if you can read that situation better, then you feel more confident, I think.
Exactly.
That sounds great. I won't ask either of you your personal experience with
I have no negative experiences, and we're huge hikers. I mean, I've come across some, but again, I'm pretty noisy on the trail.
Yeah.
Like, because I like to be noisy, and
it's a safety thing.
It's a safety thing.
Wonderful. Anything else, Latifa, on that front? We'll get the link from you on that bear video.
Yeah, I'll look for it because I'll ask my sister, because they have to do it all the time for their work, because they work with a lot of bears.
Great. Karen Thornton was just going to touch base a little bit about some of the frequently asked questions. And I think a lot of it's on the website, but Karen, would you like to, well, let me just stop for a second. Adrienne Mason, who is here virtually from Vancouver Island. No, is that right? Yeah, Vancouver Island. She said she's hiked all over BC and Alberta, including in Banff, and has never had a negative experience, but she's happy to walk with anyone who's feeling nervous. So Adrienne, that sounds wonderful. You could be a hike buddy. Thank you for that. Okay, Karen, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I have plenty of stories here from the Pacific Northwest as well. So Deborah, in your backyard as well.
Yep.
Few different species, I think, to deal with, but I have plenty of video of bear playing in my backyard. So right here in Woodinville,
And frankly,
Washington.
other people on the trail are probably more annoying than bears. So
Totally.
So Karen's put a lot of stuff up on the website, on the Slowflowers Summit website. So I think a lot of your questions can be answered, but you can reach out to either one of us. Do you want to touch base on anything that you've heard from the hotel or the lodging?
Yeah, I think the travel and accommodations tab on the Slow Flowers Summit website is a little more full this year. The biggest thing that I think for you to be aware of is just getting from an airport or wherever you might be to Banff and to the Banff Center. But we've provided tons of information on the website to be able to help you navigate that. And like Deborah said, you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions, and we'll help you get there. But we do have an airport or shuttle discount, so you can do that mode of transportation. A rental car is obviously a choice, but we'd love for you to be able to carpool and limit as many of those coming into the national park as possible. I think as the date gets closer and you start dealing with your own sort of logistics in your own household and travel plans, you'll reach out with questions, and we're happy to support in any way. The only other thing that I would say as far as accommodations is a little bit different for those of you who have attended past events, of which there's many of you on this call. We're staying on site, which is exciting to me, to build community and continue the conversations and the dialogue that happens from our programming during the day throughout the evenings in a casual, social setting. So that's really exciting to me as a person who doesn't see herself as an event planner, but as an experience designer. So whether you need sort of some time alone in a nice sort of spot, you can find that. And whether you want to find a group of people to sit and chat with, you'll be able to easily find that as well. As far as logistics for accommodations go, we have a link on our accommodations and travel section of the Summit website again that can have you, take you directly to book online with the Banff Center to secure your room in that way. So yeah, really exciting for a person like me.
I think it's really exciting that you really don't need a car if you fly into Calgary. I mean, this is for non-locals. You can take the shuttle and the bus takes you straight. And Becky, it's like an hour, right? It's like a straight shot.
It's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay.
And there's free Wi-Fi on the bus and, some refreshments and stuff. Like, it's a very easy way to get there. And Banff in the last few years has closed down the main street to vehicular traffic. They're deciding whether they're going to reopen that to cars in 2024. But sometimes that main drag that's about 5 blocks is pedestrian only. So and there's like a great bus service in Banff. Like, it's easy to get around, Uber, whatever. It's easy to get around.
But from our experience, when you took me there, first of all, there's amazing restaurants and galleries and sort of cultural stuff happening on that main drag.
For sure.
And so it's a few minutes walk from Banff. So you can, when the dinner hour happens, we're envisioning groups of people just getting spontaneously, assembled and finding a restaurant that they can go to within a walking distance. And
absolutely, just walk down the hill from the Banff Center onto the main street. You have to walk up the hill after you're done, but I mean, it's not oppressive. It's not a mountain.
It's a good way to work off those calories.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's going to be pretty much light on transportation, which is also, a real plus from our point of view. And as Karen said, keeping the community together. So we're thrilled. I thank you so much, Becky, for joining me today. I'm so delighted that Latifa could be with us. And what a bonus to have Lourdes and so many people in the audience who have come to past summits. So we're just this is early. We'll have other of our speakers come on for meetups and for podcast interviews between now and June. But we wanted to just sort of put the teaser out there because the early bird ticket sales continue to the end of the year. So now's your chance to grab that $100 off. And, there's some really real savings if you book at the hotel, and depending on if you're buying in US dollars or Canadian dollars. The prices are in Canadian dollars at the hotel. So we're just thrilled to see everyone there. And Becky, thanks so much for everything you've done to help make it happen.
Oh,
And
thank you. I'm thrilled. I'm so excited.
me too. I'm really jazzed. I'm really jazzed, and I am just one of our signatures with the Slow Flower Summit is to be in a breathtaking location, and it's often been a botanical garden, but this is like a nature garden. So
Next level.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And next month we will have our last meetup of the year, and it will be early because the first is a Friday, so it'll be Friday, December 8th, the second Friday of the month, and I don't have it completely pulled together, so we'll announce it. Look for that in the December newsletter. And thank you all for joining us today. This has been a wonderful session, and I kind of sets the stage for what our gathering will be in 2024. I hope you all have a great month, and I look forward to seeing you back in the Zoom room in December. Thanks.